I've been pretty involved with computers for a long time. I went to school at USF, University of South Florida, little art school over there. There was a little digital video department, but it wasn't like having to do with animation. I've pretty much found an excuse to teach myself animation and make every other project for any other class that was not video into a video. So I started making some kind of odd mashups.
He tries so desperately to hide his love for me.
The first video that got a lot of traction that I made, Miss Piggy sings Fuck the Pain Away. That was a strange idea. I just was listening to the song and couldn't get her out of my head singing it. Her as in like the Muppet. It seemed to like oddly encapsulate subversive parts of her personality.
Sucking on my titties like you wanted me, calling me.
I showed it in a concept class and they asked me to put it on YouTube, which hadn't occurred to me because YouTube was a little baby at the time. It was maybe like 3 years old. It got 1 million views and more, which back then it was kind of astounding and overwhelming.
Fuck the pain away. Fuck the pain away.
And at one point, a friend of mine sent me a call to action. The Guggenheim was having like an open call for art online. I ended up making it into the final cut, which was crazy.
The YouTube Play Video Artists of 2010, let's hear it for them!
The piece that I showed in the Guggenheim, it's called Wonderland Mafia. It was a mashup of a 3/6 Mafia song about smoking weed, and it's a fight between a man and a woman about like who deserves the weed, and I ended up mashing it up with some very classical, safe animation from Disney. Adult thoughts with kid thoughts. It's a very interesting reference to how you traveled through time, how you evolved. It's a little jarring for certain people. I got some very scathing comments, and honestly, those were my favorite comments. Like, the person was challenged from a mostly harmless video. It was a good indicator that there was diversity of thought going on.
What would Ricky say? Ricky's not home.
My work, I would consider it a very copyright gray area, which is done intentionally, ever since the Guggenheim material. So the copyright gray area, it's great for conversation. These are conversation pieces, and I think that's like a very pivotal thing about a work of art. There's this term, it's like psychological, called introjection, having to do with the way that you manifest imagery and stuff from your life, people's voices, people you know, movies you watch, whatever, and like the way that that echoes in your own head, that's like a form that's called introjection. So the style that I've kind of been getting into lately has to do with that term. It's sort of a form of collage. I'm taking a lot of internet media. Often it comes from actual conversations that I encounter online, where people are using little like response GIFs, little bits of media like that. And then there's kind of a spread of other random footage in there too, but it's all completely isolated and then duplicated and just kind of put into these little like microcosms of communication. There needs to be like enough tension between what's happening, but then some nice flow in certain parts. I don't want it to be too uniform. It's just all about so many tiny details. I hope that people travel into the smaller parts too, and they like stay there long enough to enjoy that. That piece, Deep Linking, it was so involved that I almost felt like I needed to dial back for my next work. Deep linking is a mechanism of surfing online, but it also kind of refers to the psychological introjection parameter. It's attempting to have like a bird's eye view summary of all of the interactions that are going on in the metaverse, like animal and landscape and people, how this is portrayed and then like beautified, but then it's kind of like ugly in certain other parts, but then it's kind of all beautiful because it's diverse and all coalescing together. A lot of online communication does reference pop culture as a common language, speaking to themes of idealization, you know, and celebrity as royalty too. Whether you love to hate certain individuals, they are caricatures basically, and there's just snippets of things that we use to communicate using their image. But then at some points, I almost want to make it so that you can notice a reference, but then it's so obscured and changed that that's not the core meaning of it anymore. This is an example of a Bezier curve where it actually like closely follows like the line. And then you just find like a really interesting moment. You take it out, you loop it, and then it ends up in the final composition like so. Often in the past, people have been surprised to meet me after seeing work and see that I'm female. But I think if you look into it, especially these newer compositions, with all like the complicated social interaction within it, this is probably some more female perspective on things. I do see my work as being scaled much larger. It's something that I became used to doing for large like architectural installations, concerts, concert visual kind of things where it's just a ridiculous amount of data that you're able to play live through specialized machines. Those are some very big projects that I've had in my past. For the NFT platforms, I pare down. Currently, it's being viewed very, very thumbnail-sized on most people's phones. But I understand that the space is young, and so imagery is going to start more simply. I don't think that that's going to be a problem in general in the future with the incorporation of AR and other tech. And so I make my stuff disregarding the need for simplicity as a small icon on the phone currently. And I'm looking forward to those things coming. But being a part of those communities, I kind of feel at home for the first time in my entire life. It's really amazing how fulfilling it's been just to be able to have it be a watering hole for other people that are more like-minded. Because I feel like before, it wasn't as organized, it wasn't as together. We were independently having to work in different industries. And then all of a sudden, we can come together and have this common interest and realize how many other digital weirdos there are just like us out there.